back again, TM Hyman, Leadership on Demand, another exciting session. You're going to like this. Well, we always like it, don't we? We welcome our guest today, Meg Dimartino. Megan Dimartino, welcome. Meg, we scheduled this damn interview like 3 times, and 3 times is a charm. Or is it this the fourth? I don't know. I forgot. This
It
is
matters
the fourth.
not. It
Three
matters
times
not.
was not a charm for us, but the fourth one, it's a hit.
Amen.
Founder of Novita Spa Health Wellness. It's award winning. I'm in Atlanta. Are you in New York or are you in Texas?
Austin, Texas area.
A New York girl now deep in the heart of Texas. Megan, for those who may not be familiar, and for those who may be slightly, right? Why don't you introduce yourself, reintroduce yourself for those who may not know who you are? Queen Megan
My
Dimartino.
pleasure, Tim. Thank you. First off, I've really loved and admired you from the moment of hello with you.
Oh, wow. Right back at you.
And we then had the great opportunity to share a cab going to, Central Park to jog.
The best Uber ride that I've ever had.
It was fabulous. It was fabulous. Going over the 59th Street Bridge from Queens to Manhattan, kind of backwards as people would think.
After we had walked around Central Park.
Right. Just wonderful. So basically, why was I there? Why were you there? We are all connectors. We are all, building businesses and building people. As my bio says, I'm a New York girl deep in the heart of Texas with a serving, mentoring spirit. I grew up on Long Island outside of New York City, and I was brought up by two very, very creative people and who had great wanderlust in their hearts. My dad was a creator in the beauty industry. It's a long story. My mother was a very bright woman and but also a seamstress. And so I thought I was going to be raise, entrepreneurial with my mom's seamstress, and we would create things. I was going to be a fashion designer because New York was my DNA. But that didn't happen. My dad wanted me to go to a Catholic girls' college versus FIT in New York. And this was in 1968, so it was a very different time. And so I did major in fashion, but that was like ridiculous versus FIT. And then my early career was in the fashion industry, in Lord & Taylor's, then into Bloomingdale's, in the buyer's training and then buying departments. And I ended up in Bloomingdale's in the buying department of cosmetics. And I managed a line that they brought in. Now it's in the 70s. And they brought in a line from London called Biba. And I share this only because I had an epiphany that day, at that period of time. Biba was very unique because they cut a deal with Bloomies, but they had to put the stand in the junior department, not in the cosmetic department. And so that to me was fabulous. We had outfits, bell bottoms, ruffled shirts. I had long hair, but I loved, I was trained by the makeup artist from Biba, and I just at that time bringing people to the stand and training, doing their makeup. I said to myself one day, TM, listening. I remember it so clearly. Bye bye American Pie. Drove my Chevy to the levee. Levee went dry. Right, John McClane was playing in the background, and I said, "Someday I'm going to do this. Someday I'm going to do this. Someday." What did I mean by do this? I didn't know if it meant a cosmetic line, but I knew I was going to create. My dream of creating didn't stop. Meaning, went back in the day when I thought I was going to be a fashion designer, it didn't stop. Yeah. And so from that point, and that was in the early 70s, I went into I moved to Connecticut with my then husband and my one child. And I was commuting to the city, OMG, and so that was just way too much. So I started selling Tupperware. Hello, Tupperware. Hello. And that's a long story, but the bottom line is I needed a car. I needed a car because we're living in Connecticut, 15 miles from town. And my husband was in a carpool, so I don't have the car, very limited time, and I needed to get to work. So I met this, I started playing a lot of tennis to stay sane. And I met this woman who sold Tupperware. And I said, well, what do you make doing that? She said, I'll have my manager call you. So the woman came to my home and basically gave me the pitch, but then mentioned that managers like she got Ford LTD station wagons, like the one in my driveway.
Car.
And I said, oh, my
What do
car.
you mean what?
And I said, could you go back and tell me how to do that? And she looked at me like I was totally insane. And I said, oh, excuse me, ma'am, I have no interest in selling plastic bowls. Remember, I'm the fashion designer, beauty, wannabe, right? And I said, I'm not interested in selling plastic bowls, but I am interested in that car. And I said, so tell me how I get that car. And she did. And I said, okay, I'll do this. And within 6 months, TM, the megaphones was birthed, my unit in Tupperware.
Wow.
And I did that for about 4 years. And I learned a lot. I knew my marriage needed to end. And so I saved money for a car. And I really learned what I know today from that in sales and building teams. And I learned at a very, very young age how to do that, that leadership skill. And I also didn't realize it then, TM, but my purpose was revealed to me during that time. So my passion is creative, but my purpose is helping others identify their dreams, goals, and desires and help them attain them.
That's phenomenal.
So as I said, I didn't realize it then, but that is what I was doing. Yeah. And so later, after I started my first skincare brand in 1992, it started to reveal itself to me, meaning that this was the purpose of this. This was helping others because this product was sold through wholesale beauty distributors to salons who in turn would sell the products. But back in 1992, and this is a fun fact, kids, there was no such thing as a spa in 1992. There was no such thing as a quote unquote licensed esthetician in the United States, other than in California and New York.
And this is your fourth spa regeneration effort, right? Your fourth iteration of a business around spa and regeneration. Tell us what regeneration is. What is that concept about?
Well, that's interesting. So now, but I started 2 skincare brands. I started Glycolique in 92 and then built it, sold it, and then started Novita Spa Clinical Products in 97. And then in 2005, but the products were still being sold through wholesale beauty distributors to other salons, spas, and now medical spas. And so in 2005, I came from Fort Worth to the Austin market because I really felt that this was Austin hadn't happened yet. It still was keep Austin weird, but it was beginning to percolate. And so I started studying the demographics of the area and planted myself in Georgetown, which is about 15 miles north of Austin, right on Interstate 35. So at first, TM, I didn't even live here. I, as an esthetician, and many years ago, I got my aesthetic license in the state of Texas and came to Georgetown, Texas, took a one-room studio and started to build the brand of Novita Spa at Rachel and Company. And then in 2005, went up to the historic Georgetown Square. For 17 years, I built what I call a hybrid, a luxury day spa, clinical, meaning great result-oriented skincare, medical, meaning Botox, fillers, laser treatments, cool sculpting. And then in 19, I added regenerative stem cell therapy, stem cell. And so that was 19. Started building that part of, we had an infrared sauna, we had a beautiful European style steam room. So that wellness piece was always there. But the regenerative piece with the stem cells added vitamin infusions to that whole program. And I work with a very, very established company that does fabulous education in the regenerative world. And to answer your exact question today, that category is just booming.
Yeah.
Because I personally feel that the one winner, and I'm going to say that word, use that word, the one winner of COVID is if you're awake, you recognize that it is incumbent upon you to be your own health advocate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've gone through so much in the United States, in the world.
Yes.
And the one thing that I don't think has slowed down is the beauty space, right? Beauty. Even men are focused on beauty like nobody's business, right? I've
Absolutely.
heard about, fake abs that like surgery.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
like Meg now. I'm like, what the hell? Like what? Just go get the abs. Just go do the work to get the abs.
Do
I
the
mean,
work.
the beauty industry's booming, but you're not just focused on beauty. You are a business and life consultant. You are helping people with life. I love what you just said. You said you went through your personal, situation, and in the midst, you found your purpose, and your purpose was to help others to find their purpose. Let's talk about that a little bit, because you have a website, megandimartino.com,
Mhm.
as well as a podcast. I want to talk about that. But what are you doing in the world of business and life consulting to help people?
Well, so I'm sharing there about the journey of building the award-winning Novitas Spa and Medical Rejuvenation Clinic. That was the name of the initial business, but I started it as Novitas Spa on the Square, and then added the medical. So I look at scaling, the word scaling, as calling evolving. You have
Yes.
to look at the market, see what is current, what people are looking for, and seeing if it fits in your business. But to answer your exact question, basically, TM, as I said back in Tupperware and building that unit, we were not the largest unit, but we were number 4 consistently of the money making, gross sales. And that was because I helped these women identify people to who they should approach to have parties and da 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 da. So meaning it's helping people to understand how to build their businesses, so to
Yeah.
speak. When I started Glycolique, I mentioned there was no such thing as a spa. Well, what did I do? When I was selling these products through distributors, I helped hairdressers, salon owners, stylists get into skincare and then get into spa.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of consulting through those distributors. So as the years went on, and so I built a huge, deep network of not only users of the product, but people that to this moment are still buying them. They may be retired, but they're still using these products. So fast forward then to starting this spa here in Georgetown, Texas. Basically speaking, there's a statistic that is national, and it's horrific. 95, and this national, not Texas, 95% of newly licensed estheticians are not working in 5 years in the field.
Hmm.
Wow. Now you say
So,
it's
so, so,
booming.
so like, can you do me a favor? Can you define for those who may not know exactly what an esthetician
Okay.
is? Because that's a new term for a lot of us in America.
Okay. An esthetician is a skincare specialist. So if you go to beauty school, you can get a license as a cosmetologist, technically licensed to do everything. So those are the peeps that I was working with back in 92 and 95, da, 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 da. Okay. From 92 to 95, every state in the United States started grandfathering in people to get their aesthetic license, which means a skincare specialist. So every state has different hours, but the average is around 700 to 900 hours. Okay, where a cosmetologist is 2,000 hours. So it's a smaller, but then there's also nail licensing. Many people know they're of a nail tech. Okay, so there's basically 3 levels or 3 different licenses in the United States that one could go and get. Okay, but basically aesthetics is specialized, or it should be.
Should be
Okay,
for
should be.
sure.
Should be. So the problem lies, again, I'm going to repeat the statistic. 95, that means almost everybody.
Wow.
95% of all newly licensed estheticians are not working in the field in 5 years. And why is that? Because the education is so horrible.
Wow.
Because the schools, and they're not doing anything illegal, they are contracting with these people to get them to pass the boards. Well, the problem lies that the board has not changed. The same board I took in 1992 is the
Oh,
same
wow.
board they're taking today, the same.
It's a little
And I know
outdated.
this because I've
Yeah.
hired and trained, so many people.
Yeah.
So therefore, if they don't have a place to be mentored, then they get out and they start waxing, they start maybe doing eyelashes, and they say, this isn't why I went to school. I'm making peanuts. So they go back to being a waitress or whatever they were doing. So they fail. So I put together what I call the master's program that basically trains internally the individual who comes to me to work, and they learn not only job skills, but business skills, life skills, just like what Glenn Lundy is speaking about this week,
Yeah.
to
Absolutely.
grading that. And so these people that worked for me, and I say worked for me for one woman 17 years the whole time, the average was 10 to 12 TM. Unheard of in the industry.
That's
They
a long
never
time.
left because
Yeah.
I kept mentoring them and building their careers.
Value, building value, right?
Yes.
And listen, Meg, I'm a believer. I'm a believer, even through my own mentorship, right? And leading people over the years. When you lean into people and you care about their overall, right?
Everything about them, I care. I
They
mean, we
find
were
it
talking.
hard to leave and disconnect because it's a rarity where people care about you, discuss things with you outside of your job function. Right, right.
Yes,
And so
yes,
I love the idea of life skills, Glenn. Again, Glenn talking about it this morning, right? How to build a team. And things have changed over the years, right? I
yes.
think, boomers were all about hard work, right? Don't talk to me about nothing but work, work, work. I want to show up early. I want to leave late, right? That has changed, from
Mhm,
Gen X, right? And
mhm.
certainly with millennials, things have changed, and we have to be able to adjust with the time. So you talked about the mentorship that's needed, the life skills that are needed outside of just traditional schooling. So imperative, right? Because in this instance that you just referred to, and I'm sure it's not the only industry, like that stuff is outdated, and you need people to keep you relevant, right? And on the cutting edge. And so, Meg, I live by a quote: "Nothing worthwhile comes easy." What quote do you live by?
Oh my gosh, there's so many, but applicable to this, it's really probably um, Zig Ziglar's. If you help enough people to get what they want, you will get what you want.
Yeah.
And I mean, too applicable to this, as I said, there's so many, but it is really so true, because if you help people, really identify though, because that's that clarity piece, TM, because again, in this business with so many different personalities and ages, and it was imperative for me to listen. That's why I love Glenn's an acronym of LEAD, listen, because
Yes.
listening is imperative. You cannot get clarity on a person if you do not listen to them, if you do
First
not
step.
watch them, if you do not
Yes.
observe what they're doing, then educate, which is that master's program, and then advise them and develop them. I had the great blessing, and all of these women, by the way, are still friends. And I'm referring to worked for me. Let me just, for your audience, in March 2020, right in the beginning of the lockdown, I started a podcast. You asked about that earlier. But before the podcast, I said to myself, how am I going to keep these girls motivated and together?
Mhm.
So I said, girls, the last days, March 21st. I mean, I didn't know what the heck was going to happen, right? As none of us did. And I said, girls, let's do A Facebook Live. Well, I had no idea you couldn't really do that. But, like StreamYard and Zoom, right? I had to figure it out real quick. But I called it, hey, let's do a pop-up shop. So we jerry rigged it at first and then figured it out. But Sarah doing lashes in her bathroom and Gigi doing a peel in her kitchen, and but we had fun and it connected us. Well, that gave me the idea of starting to interview people, which led to Unique Leaders Live, my podcast.
Yeah.
But during that season, I never went live because as long as FedEx was open, I was open, because people still ordered products on the website, on the shopping cart. So I was there every day. Anyway, one day this guy knocks on the door, late afternoon. I was about to leave and I opened it. May I help you? And my assistant had just left. And he said, hi, I'm so-and-so. I was wondering, would you like to sell me your business? Excuse me? So, really, that's exactly how it happened. And I said, well, I'm not really sure, but if you'd like to come in, let's chat. You can sit 6 feet over there. I'll sit 6 feet over here. So we started a dialogue, and but in prayer, I recognized very clearly it was time to let go of the 5,000-pound gorilla, which was this 4,000 square foot, 15 employees, luxury day spa. It was just massive work. But I never stopped doing the regenerative stem cell wellness. Okay. So I said to this guy, though, I'm not interested in selling the trade name, the product line, the URL, which had the shopping cart of the product. And he said that's fine, because he had his own name already, and he wasn't aware of the value of that. So I did not sell that. So the women that worked for me for years, worked for him initially. But guess what, TM? By January of the next year, 2 of my lead gals that had been with me very long they came to me and said, we want to start our own business. I said, it's time.
Yeah.
And so I mentored them, found the place for them, and started, helping them put their own business together. Now, the other gals that stayed with this man constantly call me, constantly see me. I'm still with them, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then I continued doing regenerative. As I said, I used a friend's clinic, but it was difficult to schedule my nurse as well as the patient with availability of the clinic. So last fall, 21, I started praying, Lord, if you want me to keep doing this, find me a building. It's a long story. It's a God story, but I'm in 115 West 9th Street. And I'm in my office. There's the original poster of Glycolite behind us. And I'm not rebuilding what I say to people, TM, and this is a marketing principle. I have shrunk the model to change the model. And so in May, I had the blessing. So I started working on this in April. We opened in really early September. So we're just really rolling it out. Never stopped, though, doing the regenerative. But in May, I went to one of my gals' weddings, Taylor Carter. And when I saw her, TM, do you know what she went like this? And she hugged me and she said, you will always be my sensei. You will always be my sensei.
Absolutely. Meg, what is the greatest lesson that you would teach your younger self after all of these experiences on this journey, right? Because I think there are a lot of young people, specifically, young women, even young men, right, trying to break into the beauty industry. What lesson could they benefit from by you just kind of imparting into your younger self?
Plain and simple, and it's an African proverb: "Go fast, go alone, go." What is it? I'm thinking now. Go, meaning, bottom line is, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Go together. Yeah.
And that is truly, I did all of this by myself, and that was not the way to do that. You must have, this is applicable to any industry, by the way. This is not just the service industry, which does need training and mentoring, but that's why I put together my Propel program, my Propel activation program. And it is to help people glean with my non-negotiable clarity, courage, confidence, commitment, and compassion. And I want to, and then there's two modules, start and then scale. And there will be a sustain, which will be a mastermind. And so it's really about, doing things together. You can't do it alone. You cannot. And that's why it is so important, our relationship, TM, and others that we have met in real time, but off time in Clubhouse, in Rise and Grind, we have to do it together.
Yes. Teamwork makes the dream work.
Yes.
I am a believer of that. And I'll tell you, I too have done a lot of things on my own. Just a reflex, right? Not because I
Yeah.
necessarily wanted to. In fact, I probably didn't want to, but didn't have the tribe, didn't have the community,
Right.
which is why I'm so in love with Breakfast with Champions, right? Not just is it my tribe, it's my 5 o'clock in the morning tribe. I've been getting up 5 o'clock in the morning forever. Right, I try to run 3 to 4 times a week, but I'm typically, or I was in my mind, the only crazy doing this. So when I bumped into Breakfast with Champions a couple years ago, I was like, where have you been all my life? Give me a hug, my people, right? And you were one of those people. And the privilege to be able to meet in real life has just been the icing on the cake, right? For me to be in an Uber with Meg Dimartino riding through the streets of New York and you pointing at, oh, in that building, years ago, we used to do this. And in that building, right, we did that. And over there, we did that. And these are buildings that I've seen,
Sure.
right, for years, but there are very different things going on in these buildings today, right? So it's the wisdom, it's the relationship, it's the rapport that we built that I think makes this so special. Meg, what are you reading? What because every successful person reads, in my opinion, and I don't necessarily read, but I'm an audio person, right? I listen on the go, so
It's funny you said that. I wrote a note to myself, a to-do note that I must start doing audio. I read several things at one time, but right now I went to Tamara Andrus's event, Grow for God
I
event
forgot.
in Nashville last week. And Mike Zeller actually has just started a vitamin infusion business. And so
Oh
we've
wow!
become,
Congratulations.
yes, based on his wife's needs. And, but that's a whole other story. But he and I, we have been communicating because he knows I'm in this space.
Mhm.
So anyhow, he brought me his Genius Within. And so I've been reading that and reading the 5 a.m. Club of, I kind of go read books and then go back to them. I'm an underliner,
I
and then I
understand.
was on Dr. Finance's room. I go in there Friday nights often, most every Friday night. And several months ago, the gentleman that was Jim Rohn's right hand, uh, I won a prize, and it is a book of Jim Rohn's quotes, but kind of backstories to them, and it's really fabulous. And so I've been reading that as well because I've been forever a Jim Rohn fan.
Yes, yes, many of us are, especially
Yes,
in the coaching world.
yes.
Congratulations on Propel. Congratulations on your successes in general, right? Let's talk a little bit about two specific things that I think are relevant to both of us. It's money and its impact, right?
Yes.
But which is more important? Is it money? Is it impact? And why?
Well, first off, as a serial entrepreneur, self-funding these businesses over the years. And back in the day, TM, in 92, as a female, that was another thing. But, that's past history. That's why, again, if I had reached out to people of wealth in Dallas, for instance, but I didn't feel comfortable. I didn't have that skill set built yet.
Hmm.
And so money has always been, as has always come to me, not great wealth, but the seed time harvest, so to
Hmm.
speak.
Seed time harvest. Yes.
And so God has always propelled me to the next step.
Like
So
it.
I have never been highly money motivated, but I have been creative, journey motivated, as well as bringing people along with me in this journey. So it's the relationship oriented, like starting another brick and mortar. I just had to I do e-blasts weekly, a couple of them. And so over this journey, I have been seeding this. And so, oh, she's back, kind of thing. And so now, I've never been highly dollar, goal oriented, but the dollars have come.
Yeah. Yeah. No, understood. I love that brick wall in your office. I,
I
I'm
love this brick wall. You have
I
no idea.
love that brick wall. Meg, what are three attributes of a dynamic leader? You are a dynamic leader. How would you describe a dynamic leader in three attributes?
A dynamic leader must have vision. You must see it. You must see it. You must believe it. You must believe it and then take action. But you must see it. That vision is all imperative.
Yes.
I love Sarah Blakely's quote, your Atlanta guy, that she, and I actually have said this in the same way, but differently, but hers is really very good. Start small. Now listen to this, guys. If you're starting a direct sale company to whatever, start small, dream big, and scale fast. So start small. Meaning don't get ahead of yourself. Dream big, but scale fast.
Yeah. And clearly she lives by that. And for those who may not know who Sarah Blakely is, a lot of men may not know. I only know because I'm here in Atlanta.
I should have said that.
And she's a big giver. She's a big
yes.
giver in
She
the
and her husband.
community.
Yes.
And so for those who don't know, she is the creator of Spanx. I bet you know now who she is.
I should have said that. I'm assuming everyone knows who Sarah Blakely is.
Shockingly enough, I was with a friend a couple of weeks ago. We had to travel to Detroit. We lost a dear friend. They traveled from Tampa. I traveled from Atlanta. Clearly, we met in Detroit. And on our way leaving Detroit, we were in the airport, and like she became startled all of a sudden as we're headed to our gates to depart. And I didn't know like what the hell was going on, Meg. And do you know what startled her? She saw a Sarah Blakely Spanx store in the airport. And she got startled, like, oh my God, it's a Spanx store. I was like, huh? But
that's great. That's great. That's great. But you know what it speaks to, though, that Sarah, I don't know if you've ever listened to her, but she's so unassuming and so very kind, like you said, a giver, but she's unassuming. But her stories are so rich, meaning how she actually started all of that is fabulous. Fabulous. Yes.
So repeat that again. Start small.
Start small, dream big.
Dream big.
And scale fast.
Scale fast. That's one to live by.
Yes.
For sure. Meg, tell us about a teacher.
Say it again.
Tell us about a teacher who poured into you throughout your public school education. I'm going to assume that you went to public school.
No, I went to Catholic school.
Yeah, so Catholic school. So yeah, that's even better, right? I mean, think about a teacher, Catholic school, that you smile when you think of her or when you think of him.
That's so, it's funny that you asked this question. I've never been asked this question. But I think of this person often because I write all the time, as you know. I mean, every social media post is writing. Every e-blast is writing. Ramon Ray has now asked me to do some contributing where, it's writing. I've been asked by different Eric Zulli to be a contributor. I used to write in the trade publications. So writing is part of what I have a blog. And Sister Dimphna, junior year of high school, she was my English teacher. And I can see her face. I can see her smile. And she took me aside one day and said, you know, you really are talented. I said, really? And meaning, and she was talking about writing. And I was like, really? Oh, okay. And so I just, that seed of that statement has resounded with me. But the other teacher I have to share is not in school. It was my first boss at Lord and Taylor, Mrs. Letty Peppard, the most elegant person I had ever seen in my entire life. But she was, again, so like Sarah, so unassuming. And, but she just was so elegantly wonderful. And I was head of stock, TM. You know, I was going down to the storage, you know, the loading docks and bringing the stuff up to the designer sportswear department. And so it wasn't a fancy job. But she would always include me when different manufacturers came in, when she had buying meetings, she would always include me. And then she'd say to me, Megan, let's go. Okay, where are we going? And she would take me to Lily Pulitzer. She was going to the showroom. She was going to Aquascutum Raincoats, Bonnie Cashin, which turned into Coach. I mean, these are the seeds that were poured into me, TM.
That's that mentorship you were talking about.
Yes. That is why, that's why I had to honor Letty Peppard, because that was that mentorship. Yes.
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 Yeah. And that's important, right? Because often we want to kind of give back, pay forward what we've received. I know that's my story.
Yes.
Right. I've received so much support over the years for people who just wanted me to do well. They saw the potential and they took ownership of helping to cultivate the potential, right? Because we have the capacity to go way left or way right, right? And I had the capacity to go so far left and just drive off the bridge that people rallied around that. They didn't want to see that energy harnessed in the wrong way, right? And so thank God for allies, mentors, and sponsors. They say that knowledge is power. Would you agree, yes or no?
You know, yes. I mean, first off, back in the day, it's not as prevalent today, but back in the day when I was going to college or finishing high school and going to college, if you didn't go to college, you were perceived as, you know, worthless, deadbeat, whatever.
Yeah.
And so my story really is I went to Marymount in Arlington, Virginia, and I hated it. I really hated it because the program was so stupid. It was like home ec. I mean, it was like home ec. And and then furthermore, the cool thing to do in 1968, 69 was to march for the Vietnam War. And which was fine, except that if you asked anybody why they were marching, they would have no idea. But it was a social thing. Yeah. And then we would go to whatever dorm of whatever college, because it was an all-girls school, by the way. And they were all smoking pot. Well, I didn't know what pot was. I was very intimidated by all that. And I just was very uncomfortable. But working going to school in the fashion, that program, I had to work in the field. So I went back home and said to my father, Dad, they're marching and they're smoking pot. Well, he had no idea what pot was. Zero. I said, Dad, it's a drug. Oh, no. And so I said, I'm not going back to college. So I stayed working, TM, with Letty Peppard. Okay.
Wow.
And this is all in my book, by the way, Hope and Possibilities Just Over the Horizon. Never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams. But all of my friends were in college. All of my friends. And I mean, I just finished freshman year. So I am not a college graduate, folks. I'm not. I'm self-taught. I'm self-propelled. Through all of the people, like you said, TM, that have enriched my life.
Meg, I'm so happy that you actually said that, because I think that's extremely encouraging for people who still feel that way today, right?
Yes.
And that's not a notion from back in the day. There are people who still feel less than because they didn't go to college, right? And at the end of the day, I know extremely successful people who didn't graduate from high school.
Yes.
It really doesn't matter, right? It all comes down to vision, capacity, and resourcefulness,
Yes.
right? And you
Yes.
get that resourcefulness through allies, mentors, and sponsors, right? Meg, what has been your greatest accomplishment, my friend? Because there has been many. What's been your greatest?
I would say personally that my relationship with Jesus.
Ah,
I would say personally my relationship with Jesus because I I've been a keynote speaker in the spa arena for years. I know in my heart because when my husband Paul passed, the Lord said to me, "Share your story." That's hence the book. But I know that it's more than that, and it's about what you just said about encouraging people. And I could have answered that question about knowledge, and I could have been really, frou-frou, but I shared personally, okay? Because
yeah,
I
and it matters, right? The personal, authentic,
right,
transparent
right,
shares
right.
is really why we do this, right?
Amen. So I know that I'm to speak, and meaning on whatever that means. I don't even know. It's sort of like, Lord, what do you mean share my story? Well, it didn't answer that question, as God doesn't. But the bottom line, TM, about what is my greatest accomplishment, I say I'm Mary Magdalene and the woman at the well rolled into one. I don't think I need to say much more. And so I was a woman of the world. And it was I kept my life together. I had two daughters that I could say my daughters, that they both are whole, because when I divorced, my ex-husband left and never came back. I needed to do that, but I stayed married 10 years, and so basically, my career and my daughters were all my focus, but the world was part that whole situation. And in 1992, I gave my heart to the Lord. So this is a big year for me. 30 years ago, I started my first business. And 30 years ago, I gave my heart to Jesus and the Holy Spirit. And I'm a spirit filled and led person. And I listen. I listen. So you have to go quiet and listen because you will miss the direction He has for you. So I would not be the person I am sitting here today. I mean, some of the things I did, I'm sure I would have done some of them, but I would not be the person that I am today without having given my heart to the Lord.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful. And so I have one last question in closing, right? Because we're talking about the ultimate leader, Jesus,
Yes.
as I am a believer as well. How important is leadership today? I personally think it's more important than ever, right? Based on the landscape of this country and the world. But how important is leadership from your perspective?
I would say that it's all important. And unfortunately, with the landscape, as the word you used, relativism is destroying the world. And therefore, it is squelching the voice of so many people. It's smothering the voice and stopping people from quote unquote being a leader. And it is sometimes risky. We know a lot of people that stepped out of the boat in the last 4 years, and the world tried to destroy these people.
Yeah.
And with narratives that might not necessarily be true, but it's their perspective. And Ramon Ray, and I'll always give kudos to people that touch me. In his talk at Grow for Your Business for God's Sake, he said, "I'm desperate." And he said, I could be talking about funnels and this and that and so forth that I speak at other conferences, but I'm going to speak about Jesus. And I am desperate to share Jesus.
Yes.
in this very dark and very confused world. And that I'm doing Glenn Lundy's 89 days of scripture. And as
Yes.
I said, I
It's been
mean,
beautiful, hasn't it?
it's, I've never read from chapter to chapter, verse to verse ever. I mean, I'm in the Bible every day, but I've never done that. And oh my gosh, just reading Acts.
Yeah.
Now I can't wait to get into Romans today.
Yeah.
But it's, guys, there's nothing different today. Nothing. So whether Jesus was God and so forth, it doesn't really matter. You need to go back and read the New Testament, because you must get the context of leadership.
Absolutely. Meg Dimartino. You can visit megandimartino.com. Meg, you mentioned the book. Tell us that book title again and how we can pick it up.
The book is on Amazon. It was #1 in 4 business categories, January of 2020. It's called Hope and Possibilities Just Over the Horizon. It's never too early or too late to create the life of your dreams. Never. But in April, Easter of 20, I said to my assistant, I said, let's put it on the website, during the lockdown. So you can get it at megandimartino.com. And last year I did an audiobook, and yes, you can get that too. You can pay money for it, but you can this past Easter, I put it on the megandimartino.com site. So you can get the audiobook, and it is my voice.
Founder of Novita. You can find her now at megandimartino.com. Congratulations on the book. Congratulations on all of your successes, Meg, and congratulations on Unique Leaders, the podcast. Got to check that out soon. It has been my pleasure, my friend. We got it done.
Yay!
Thank you so much.
Thank you.